Hey guys, welcome to another video and thanks for clicking on this one. In this video, I want to share something that I don't talk about often on my channel, and that is setting your expectations for flight training. Now, a lot of people who have subscribed to this channel are aspiring pilots who are looking for opportunities in aviation. However, as time progresses, as you follow some of the tips and information that I share and the resources that I have, and by the way, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please don't forget to do so. You see those buttons there? Subscribe, hit the thumbs up, turn on the notification bell so that you don't miss any of my videos in the future when I do release them. Don't do them, all right, so that you don't miss any of this. But the thing is, most of the people who subscribe to this channel are aspiring pilots who are looking for opportunities in aviation. And when you finally get an opportunity and you start your training, there's often a disconnect between what I put on this channel and the reality that you might be facing. And some of you already started your flight training, some of you already completed your training, different phases, and sometimes I feel like I don't connect with those people as much because most of the things I talk about are for those who are trying to get into aviation. So here's something that I want to start doing. I want to start implementing some of the things that you will face during training, some of the things you're likely to deal with after training. One of the things that you have to deal with after training will be, of course, looking for opportunities in aviation. And that's why in my last live that I did, a live stream that I did, I actually shared some of the jobs in different parts of the world. It could be in the US, it could be in different parts of the world that I will start to bring to the channel as well. Now, of course, that would connect with those that are looking for opportunities, that are actually trained pilots looking for opportunities in those areas. And of course, I would also bring on some of the resources that you could use. Of course, one of the resources, if you're new here, that you may not know about is pilotassessments.com. But the important thing here is, remember, opportunities are always revolving in the aviation industry. So sometimes some industries, some sectors in different parts of the world, or I would say some regions in different parts of the world, will have more opportunities than the other, depending on the timing, depending on the economy, depending on what is going on in those regions. So what I want to cover here in this video is how you can position yourself for success during training. A lot of times you've gotten this opportunity to start your training, whether it's through a cadet program, whether it's partially sponsored, all right, or it's self-sponsored programs. And the reality sets in. You start training and then you realize that, oh my gosh, I'm not getting things done at the pace that I expected or the pace that is expected of me. And this is something that you'll see a lot. Well, why is this happening? The reason why this happens is because we all have to learn. We all have to go through the process of learning. And if you haven't seen the learning curve that exists, and this is something for those that are maybe CFIs that may be out there, a learning curve. And by the way, you bear with me, I would have to do something real quick here, window capture, and let me bring this up. All right. So a learning curve, the definition here on Google, is the rate of a person's progress in gaining experience or new skills. Now, let me show you, a typical one is something like this one that you see out here. And what you see here is time at the bottom. And of course, on the vertical axis, you have the competence, your ability to learn. And let me go back to my screen. Actually, let me do that. All right. Your ability to learn, all right, comes with a bit of practice, which gains competence. All right, so as you practice, your competence level increases, but that also occurs over time. So one of the things you need to keep in mind is, as you start your training, understand that it will take some time to learn some things. It is just bound to happen. Now, people would learn at different phases, and that's something that you want to keep in mind. So what you're looking at here is you are unconsciously incompetent when you're starting out. Nobody was born to fly. Nobody was, we all had to learn it. We are not birds. Even birds have to learn to fly. You start learning with a good instructor that takes you at the pace that is, conducive for your learning phase or your learning speed. You get to a point where you are consciously incompetent. So now you know the things that you don't know, and you now know the areas that you need to work on. Okay. And of course, you finally get to a consciously competent phase where you are now knowing what you're doing. You know how to speak on a radio, you know how to land the airplane and things like that. And then you go through a phase, or you could go through a phase where you're unconsciously competent. And what that means is that now you now know how to fly, but there are things that you still don't know. And that's why you have to continue to learn in aviation. Now, why am I bringing this to your attention? You see, when you're budgeting your flight training expenses, a lot of times we assume whatever we see on the website. So if I go to any of these flight schools that are out here, cost of flight training, let's see what I would find here. A lot of people end up finding, information from the school, and they say, oh yeah, it's going to cost me, I don't know, $100,000 to train, or it's going to cost me $15,000 to train or to finish my private. So this is an example of what I mean. So this is thrust flight, and it says, let me share with you here. It says it costs $105,000 to become a pilot if you're starting with zero experience in the zero time to airline program. It costs $83,000 if you're starting with your private pilot certificate. You see those numbers that you see there, and this goes with any flight school. This is not about this flight school that I just pulled up. This was just the first one that came up. Any school you pull up, you always have to understand that those numbers assume that you progress through the training at record pace. That means that you show up to flight, you're prepared, you know what you're doing, you do the first lesson, you move to the next lesson, you move to the next lesson, and so on. So it's almost like a perfect setup. A perfect scenario is what they've put out to you here. When in reality, most of the time, you are not going to go through training like that. You will start training, you do the first lesson, second lesson, third lesson, and fifth lesson, you start to struggle. Right, where you now have to start landing the airplane, and you realize, oh my gosh, my instructor has been helping me all this while, so now I have to start landing myself. And then you realize how difficult it is to land. Or you show up to flight one day and you land well, and the next day it's windy and now you're struggling to land. So all these things starts to come up, where you then have to learn how to adjust for winds, how to learn land in crosswinds, how to land with no winds, how to land when winds are coming from the opposite direction, when winds are coming from the tail. All these things starts to come into place. And of course, those would require that you repeat sometimes. Now, this is where people get discouraged. Nobody wants to talk about repeating. Everybody wants to just assume that I'm going to show up and do it well. True, if you do the work. And this is why I share these resources on this channel, where I talk about different things that can help you. For example, one of the things that would help you when it comes to preparing for your lessons is chair flying. This is one of the things that has done wonders for a lot of people, including myself. So what does this mean? That means that you show up in your own comfort of your room, sit on a chair like I'm sitting right now. But imagine I have a mock graph of a cockpit in front of me of the airplane that I fly. And I start to practice my maneuvers, and I imagine, close my eyes. I imagine everything from pulling the power through the RPM to setting the flaps at the right speed, then pulling the gears at the right speed, and then doing the maneuver and then recovering. All these steps are then practiced in a methodical order in the comfort of your home, but then you imagine it. It's all imagined, right? You do this chair flying. If you have a flight simulator, that's even better. This is where you then get to maybe see some of the things that you deal with in actual flight on a flight sim with the necessary, maybe yoke and pedal and all this stuff. If that's what you can afford. Point I'm trying to pass along to you is that you can definitely do some things to speed up what we see here, the learning curve. All right, the learning curve. We want to speed it up so that the faster we can get through these phases, okay, and get to this point at least, the more money you can save in the long run. The goal is that you want to be able to start this training, finish training without having to get stalled out. A lot of times people get stalled out during training, where they start with a certain amount of money and they are unable to complete training because they run out of money. And sometimes that's the end for it, or of those people, for some. And this is something that happens every now and then. And there's nothing wrong with identifying when you're stalling out, where you're just unable to progress because maybe you're not getting the maneuvers, maybe you're not making progress. It might be time for you to switch an instructor, talk to somebody else, talk to a mentor, find help. Don't keep quiet. Don't just assume that it's you are the problem. Sometimes it's not you. Sometimes it's just the environment is not just right for you yet. And sometimes it could be you. If you're not doing your work, if you're not doing what you're supposed to do, you may struggle. All of this to say that my desire for you that you're watching this video is to succeed in your training, and hopefully you can find necessary tools and tips from this channel. And if you have found value in this video, if you've learned something from this video, please don't forget to drop a like on the video, and I'll see you in a future one.